Okay, everyone, welcome to the first Learn for Life live stream here. I'm not sure if anyone will show up, but let's see. This is what I'm calling office hours. Anyone that would like to can write in and ask a question. Anything related to English or any of the videos we've posted so far. Yesterday on the parts of speech. So Mary unfortunately could not come today. She sends her apologies. So it's just me. But welcome to those that have come. I'm going to say hello to Abdullah and Sarah. So welcome, guys. I don't know if either of you have a question you would like to ask. About English, about our academy, or anything you would like to ask related to English. The other thing I might do is take you on a little tour of the academy. If no one has questions, I can show you guys a little tour. Although I have my laptop computer, so it's not as easy as the phone. But we can do that and see if you are interested in seeing the Institute. As mentioned, we are located in Abha, Saudi Arabia, here in the Syria region. Okay, so first question is from Abdullah. He asks, what are the best ways to improve the academic writing? So, good question. Writing is often one of the most difficult skills to master in English. And I myself have done a lot of academic writing in university, of course. So, you know, with writing, I think one of the first things to help your writing is to read other academic writing and note the style, note the structure of whether it's an essay you're doing or reading other academic papers. And you can look for the subject that you need to write about. And you can also use these different sites now. They have different sites. I can't think of the name right now, but I can post it later, where you can actually send your paper to be proofread and receive comments. Of course, you do have to pay a fee for this, but it's a great way to improve your writing with a professional teacher. So, you know, for example, I could sign up on one of these sites and I would receive papers and would be able to comment and give feedback. But like anything, you just need to practice more. So Abdullah, I would recommend reading some academic papers related to your topic. I don't know what your topic is. Maybe if you tell me your topic, I can give you some more advice. But certainly I will say in my experience of teaching in many different countries, for ESL learners, that writing is often the most difficult skill to master. And I've helped a number of people prepare for the IELTS exam with writing. And this is, again, usually one of the most difficult tasks. So thanks for your question, Abdullah. And if you want to ask a follow-up question, then you are welcome to, if you want me to speak particularly to a topic that you have. So thank you again. And would someone else now like to ask a question related to English or anything else? Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome, Abdullah. And I will try to put some links, maybe if I can, on this video to sites where you can get help with academic writing, or you can read other academic papers which might help you. But really, the thing to do is to read some and then practice the styles. There's a number of other YouTube videos I know that they give you advice on writing, how to structure your reports. So yeah, I'll try to do that at the end of this video. I'll put a couple links to sites that can help you with your academic writing, inshallah. So, very good. I'll wait till the next question. In the meantime, I'll just give a little background here. I've been in Abha now for 2 years at the Learn4Life Academy. We're in the Mansak region. So if you're if you're going to be in UPA this summer, you're most welcome to stop by and check out our academy. All right, so next question is from Mustafa, I think. And he asks, what is the right steps to studying IELTS? Let me see if I have my IELTS book back here. I don't know if I do right now. You know, I think it's in my other room, but we have an IELTS book here that we use, depending on what score you want to aim for in the IELTS. And it helps having a book just to guide you through, and also ideally a native ESL speaker or English speaker that teaches ESL to help guide you through it. So that's what we do here at the Institute. We use, there's an IELTS 1 book and an IELTS 2. I think the IELTS 2 is to score between 6 and above, which you often need to get into the universities. You need often a 6, 6.5 minimum to get into U.S. universities. In terms of what are the right steps for studying, it's easy to get overwhelmed with the IELTS because there is so much information. There are so many things online that I had one student come in and he had like a massive stack of things, and really he was so overwhelmed that he wasn't even studying. He didn't know how to even begin. So I would recommend, there's a book you can get at Jarir if you're in Saudi Arabia, and it's IELTS 1 and 2, and it's very good. And if you have someone that can guide you through it, that's even better. If you're really motivated, you can do it on your own, and there are a number of IELTS sites. And I'll put some links down here below. I'm going to make a note for myself about these things. So we'll put some IELTS links that you can use to help you start. And also I'll put the name of this book that we use here at Learn4Life, which is very effective. And then I'm also going to put some stuff on academic writing. So very good. So I hope that helps. But the IELTS, you really do need to start studying well in advance. And if you can take a practice exam and see where your weak area is, so you can see what to focus on. Again, it's often writing is difficult. I mean, the whole exam is pretty difficult if you haven't been studying English most of your life. So next question here from Majoro. I'm not sure what this name is, but he or she asks, what's your opinion about the way they teach in Saudi Arabia? What I mean is that how is the quality of teaching English in Saudi Arabia? Okay, so my opinion about teaching in Saudi Arabia. Well, I've been fortunate to teach now in Saudi Arabia for 4 years. So I've been in Jeddah, as mentioned, at a vocational college there. So I taught in the vocational college system. I've also taught in the university here in Abha at King Khalid. And I've also done some work in international schools, K through 12 international schools. So I've seen a wide variety of teaching here in Saudi Arabia. So I'm not sure if you're speaking about how ESL teachers teach English, or if you're speaking to the general education system. My opinion is generally, I think they're doing a good job here, especially at the international schools that I've been at. I, of course, I have been to, but I haven't spent much time at any of the Saudi, public schools, let's say K through 12, to see how they're teaching English there. But I will say that I know students are becoming much more motivated to learn English in the 4 years I've been here. I think this maybe is part of Vision 2030, because English, of course, is becoming more and more important in the global economy. My opinion overall is that it's been a very positive experience. I hope that it continues to be so, and I hope that Saudi teachers, I hope more Saudi native teachers can teach as well, and help their country improve as well. So the short answer is my opinion is generally positive. The teachers I've met everywhere I've been. So thanks for your question. I hope that answers it. In terms of the quality of teaching, I think it's generally pretty good. It depends on the region too. you know, in Jeddah, of course, there are a lot more options for studying English. In this region of Syria, there aren't too many academies that provide English, especially from native teachers. You know, as far as I know, we are the only academy in Abha or Asir that has native teachers from the US, from UK, South Africa. So I think that's important, definitely studying with a native teacher. Another question here from Saleh. I can understand English very well, but I can't speak the words disappear in my head. Okay, so I think here you have a hard time with remembering words or speaking, or maybe you get nervous, I don't know. But this is often the case. You know, it's been interesting because a lot of younger students, they learn through playing video games. And so they learn to understand the English, but in terms of speaking, they find it very difficult. So again, this happens by simple practice. If you can find a native speaker, if you have a friend, whether it's on a video game or some online chat, then you simply have to practice, and you'll find that it gets easier the more you try, and the words will come. It's because you're not using the language enough. There's a saying in learning languages that if you don't use it, you lose it, which means you need to be continually practicing. And for me, I've studied Spanish for a number of years, and I lived also in South America. So when I was using it every day, I became quite fluent. But now I've been away for many years, and so I start to lose it. There are still words there, but like you, the words disappear. I can understand when someone's speaking Spanish, but the words will disappear. So the point here is that you need to be constantly practicing, and the more you practice, the more those words will stay with you. Okay, very good. Let's see what else we have here. Abdullah again asks, English environment is what we needed in Saudi Arabia to learn English. Yes, definitely. We need more opportunities to speak English, because especially here in Abha, we have a lot of students that are practicing here at the academy or you know, at their school or university. But then when they go home, of course, everything's in Arabic with their family, with their friends. So you can do little things that I recommend to help yourself. Which one would be, for example, on your phone, change the user language to English. This will challenge you to learn. So try to do as many things as you can. Your web browsing on the internet, try to search for things in English. Try to use English as much as you can, given your circumstances. And again, if you're able to make some native friends, whether it be, you know, whether it be here in Saudi or online. I mean, there's so many opportunities now for learning, as well as a number of apps that you can certainly use as well. And maybe people can recommend some apps they've used for learning English, whether it's conversation or otherwise. I myself have used one called Verbling, which pairs you up with a native teacher. You do have to pay for it, but it's very good. You know, I was using that when I was trying to learn Arabic, and I did have a very good teacher. So let's see, next question. This again, Majur asks, so I'm a bachelor student, but I figured something while I'm in conversation with someone. Sometimes I'm trying to translate the words into Arabic, which sometimes cause me a headache. Yes, okay. This is normal when you're starting out to learn English. You're going to think in your native language, so you're going to translate everything in your head. Now, I'll give you one example that that I hear a lot here. So when talking about time, someone might say, you know, Gabal Hamsa Sana. You know, before, they would then translate it before 5 years. This is wrong. In English, we use ago, 5 years ago. But this is one thing, a simple example of how you translate things in your head. You're thinking in Arabic, and you just translate each word into English. So this is a common mistake, and it's normal when you're learning. You just have to be aware of these things. And again, it comes with practice. In the beginning, yes, it's a headache. And I remember this from studying Spanish, which is easier because it's more similar to English than, let's say, Arabic. So, you know, it just comes with a lot of practice. And as you learn where are you making these mistakes, you'll kind of make a note of that in your head and your memory, and it'll get easier. It will get easier and you'll have less of a headache. But in the beginning, we say there are growing pains. Maybe you've heard this before. There are growing pains, which means, yeah, of course, it's difficult. You're basically rewiring your brain. And the older we get, the more difficult it is to change those patterns. That's why it's, little kids, they learn very quickly. They can master, 3 languages very easily by the time, let's say, they're 10. I've seen that many times. So as we get older, yeah, it becomes more difficult, and it often does cause a headache. But again, with practice, it'll get easier, and eventually you will start to think in English. And here's the real test: is when you have a dream in the language you're studying, the second language. I can remember when I started having Spanish dreams, dreaming in the Spanish language, which was an amazing experience because I was, in my case, I was living in Chile for 5 months. And so every day with my family that I lived with there and my friends, always speaking Spanish. And so something flipped in my brain. And then I started thinking in Spanish. I started dreaming in Spanish. So once you reach that point, that's a sign that, you're doing very well. So I wish you the best, and inshallah, you'll keep practicing, and eventually it'll get easier for you. All right, next question here from Top Mood. Do you think watch movies without subtitles? It's a good way for learning English. Sorry, do you think? It's okay. So yeah, do you think, you can ask the question this way: do you think watching movies without subtitles is good for learning English? Is a good way to learn English? Yeah, this is a good question because, of course, movies are a great way to learn a language, and you learn, what we might call everyday speech, which is often what people want. They want to just be able to converse. They don't necessarily want to learn about the, past perfect continuous. So movies are a great way to pick up, everyday language that native speakers use. In terms of watching movies without subtitles, of course, it's better. You have to focus more. When you have subtitles, let's say you're watching a movie in English and you have subtitles in Arabic. I don't know if this is what you're speaking to. Well, then you're focusing on the Arabic, and your mind is not as focused on the actual English. In the beginning, this helps, and I did this when I was learning Spanish, because in the beginning it's very difficult. I wanted to at least know what they were saying, and after a while I'd pick up certain words, and then I'd watch it, Spanish with Spanish subtitles. So this is something you could do, kind of wean yourself, which is to say that you maybe start with Arabic subtitles, then you switch to English, verbal English, listening to the English with English subtitles, and then eventually you want to get rid of all the subtitles and watch the movie like a native speaker would. So it takes time. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. You have to gauge where you are at with your level in terms of, will this help you improve? So it's a process, and it depends where you're at now with your language skills. But eventually, of course, you want to get to the place where you can watch a movie like a native speaker without subtitles, and really focus on the actual dialogue of the movie. But again, subtitles do help you in another way, which is with reading and spelling too, which is another difficult area in English. So I do encourage subtitles too for that reason. Can we learn Spanish? Asks Abdul Jabbar, maybe. Yeah, of course. I haven't taught Spanish for a long time, but I certainly could do it again if there was enough. If there was enough interest, I would be happy to. Spanish is really a wonderful language, and again, in the top 5 languages in the world in terms of number of people that speak. This is something I'll have to look up again, but I think English, Arabic is there, Chinese, Spanish, and one more language. What would it be? Not sure what the 5th language would be, but I mean, probably Urdu or Hindi. So, these are languages that would allow you to communicate with the most number of people. So here's another question from Mr. Weirdo. Would you believe that a 10-year-old kid who is from Saudi Arabia learned English by his own? We can say on his own. Yes, I would believe that. And I don't know, Mr. Weirdo, if you are that 10-year-old kid. Because I've met a number of people in Saudi Arabia that speak English very well simply from playing video games. And I think they're playing video games many hours a day and they're practicing English. And so, you know, this is one, I'm not a big advocate of video games, but this is one way to practice your English. If you're going to be playing them, at least you're also doing something else beneficial, improving your language skills. So I do believe that a number of people have, and you know, there's another Saudi YouTube channel. I don't think it's still active, but it's called Falimha, and they do little skits with English movies. And I believe the person that started that, I can't think of his name right now, but he learned English, I believe, mostly from just watching movies and then you know, practicing the dialogue. So you really can these days learn without a lot of help. You can just use YouTube. You can use video games, chatting in English. So there are so many ways now to learn English, and it is possible for a 10-year-old kid to learn English. I mean, that's very impressive. So I think you said a 10-year-old kid. Okay, so I think you, Mr. Weirdo, are that 10-year-old kid. And if that's the case, congratulations. MashaAllah, it's very impressive that you've been able to learn English on your own. Okay, so here's the response again from Majo. No, I don't have any problem with English. Studying at Arizona State University, but I used to do that, translating the conversation. Is that normal? Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely, that's what we do. We think first in our native language, so it's natural to translate into the other language. And you know, with more practice, you'll get better at that. I'll give you another example in my own experience learning Spanish. I also did work with translation, what they call simultaneous translation, and that means someone is speaking, and a couple seconds after whatever they say, I have to translate that into English. So it's like a rapid translation. English to Arabic is even more difficult, of course, or Arabic to English, either way. So this comes with a lot of practice, but for me, it just came with practice. I had to do this for a couple months during the summer. By the end of that summer, I did become much better at it, where I was able to flip the language. You know, I was listening to Spanish, and then I could immediately translate it into the English. But it does take a lot of energy. It does take a lot of energy. So to answer your question, yes, it is normal to do this type of translate in our head. And I don't know how long you spent in the US, but I imagine after a number of years, you know, it got much easier. It wasn't such a headache, and you could, you know, start thinking in English. So yeah, inshallah, it will continue to get easier for you. Abdullah here asks, here, Rauf is late, no problem, most welcome. You know, you don't get tardies for this. You don't get points off your grades if you come to the live chat late, so no problem. Abdullah here asks, I have an issue in English pronunciation because my accent in Arabic is too strong and that affects my speaking. How can I improve my accent? Yes, this is often one of the biggest challenges. And I do like to place a lot of emphasis on pronunciation. I believe in Arabic the word is al-natak. Because the thing is, you can have a very high level of English knowledge, but if you have a very poor accent, you're not going to be understood. And then all of that knowledge is for waste. So focusing on English pronunciation is very important. I try to do this in my classes, going through vocabulary, speaking slowly. You know, Abdullah, going back to the site I mentioned, Falimha, if you listen on there, you'll see that the guy who started it, his accent is very good. MashaAllah, very good. And he says that he improved this accent simply from watching these movies and repeating the lines. So really, to improve your pronunciation, you do have to practice. You can listen to something on a movie and then practice saying those lines again and try to do it the exact same way. You know, I'm trying to do that in Arabic when I listen to sounds. You know, for me, of course, There are many difficult sounds like ayin, gayin, ha, ha. So I have to listen very closely and repeat these many times to try to get the sound right. And so, you know, if you want to improve your accent, you do have to focus on that. You can also find a number of other YouTube videos that do focus specifically on pronunciation that will help you in terms of, you know, the phonetics. You know, English is difficult too because it's not a phonetic language, which means we don't spell things the same way we say them always. Unlike Arabic is phonetic, Spanish is phonetic. So once you learn the sounds, it becomes much easier to learn how to say the words. So for English, you'll just have to practice, you know, find some videos that focus on pronunciation, or, you know, learn some dialogue from a movie. And in that way, you can practice it on your own. Again, the more you practice, the better your accent will get as you listen to native speakers. And you'll pick up little signs. Oh, that's how you say it, you know. And then you'll make you know, connections. It'll get easier, I think. Let's see what's next here. Welcome. We have a number of other people here coming in. Their names are in Arabic. Let's see here. I think this is Saad. Saad. I'm not sure if I can read this. This other name is Ahmed. Welcome, Ahmed. So here Saleh says, I wrote a book in Arabic and I would like to write in English. Do you have any advice? This is a good practice, trying to translate your book from Arabic to English. It's a very difficult task, but it would be a good practice for you to take little parts of it and write it in English. And again, there are sites where you would have to pay, but you can have someone proofread what you've written in English and they can give you feedback. But I imagine translating a whole book would be quite difficult, but you know, if you did it step by step, it might benefit you a lot. I also, again, going back to Spanish, would do that. I would have to translate documents, and it was very good practice for improving my Spanish. Okay, Mr. Weirdo again here. He writes, yeah, it's really great. Me and my best friend, we used to laugh at our English teacher. He's Egyptian, so he used to say, okay, sex rather than saying six, because he thought it sounds like yes. So this is a common mistake in all languages. We make pronunciation mistakes, and sometimes very big ones, where the word means something completely different, and we might offend someone or, you know, hurt someone's feelings. So we do have to be careful of that. And, you know, Mr. Weirdo, that's a great example of why we need to focus on pronunciation, why pronunciation is so important. To communicate our message. So that's a very good example there where you can make a big mistake if you're not careful. Okay, so thanks. I've been here for 5 years, but I think it's a hobby for me to do that. Thanks a lot. Okay, good. Well, I wish you all the best with your studies, and I hope you're having a positive experience in Arizona. I've been through there before. It's a very nice state. The weather is very nice, much different than Minnesota, where I'm from, which you know, is close to Canada, and we have very long winters, very cold winters, often 6 months a year. So here Ahmed writes, I understand English very well, but unfortunately I can't speak. Well, mashallah, your writing is very good, so that's a good sign. Speaking, you know, it comes with lots of practice. You have to, you know, with language, you have to be willing to take a risk. And something that I learned when I was learning Spanish, I had a teacher say, the important thing is to get the ball over the net. You know, this is an analogy with volleyball. If you know the sport volleyball, you're just hitting the ball back and forth over the net. You know, the point here is that you use what you know to get your message across. With language, when you're learning, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be, I often tell students this, you have to be humble, which means you have to be willing to make mistakes. That's the only way you're going to learn. So if you're having difficulty with speaking, the only way to improve is to practice. You have to take a risk, put yourself out there, whether it's online, whether it's, you know, with a native speaker. You have to be willing to make mistakes. I make all kinds of mistakes when I speak Arabic. Another piece of advice might be to, if you know some younger kids, and here I'm talking about, you know, age 5, 6, 7, kids that speak, you know, English at a high level or natively, This is another way I learned Spanish. Why? Because kids will always correct you if you make a mistake. They think it's funny. You know, when I was in Chile, the kids, they may had, you know, maybe that they had never met an English speaker before, so they assumed that everyone spoke Spanish. So when I couldn't speak Spanish, they thought it was hilarious. They thought it was so funny. What's wrong with this guy? But you know, eventually they would help me and they would correct my Spanish. So again, I was speaking at, you know, like a age 5, 6 Spanish in the beginning, but that's where you have to start. So you know, my advice there is simply to practice, 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 and take risks and be humble. Okay, so next here, Nazar is coming in from Canada. Okay, great. Where in Canada do you live, Nazar? You know, I imagine if you're from Saudi originally, that's been a difficult challenge living in that type of climate. Okay, so Mustafa here asks how long I should study to get a 6.5 score for each overall score in the IELTS. Well, this question gets asked a lot, and you know, there's really no time limit you can give. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on what level are you at, what we call readiness level. What level do you come in at before? If you've taken the exam before, then you'll know, well, did I score a 5, 5.5? I need to raise my score 1 point. Okay, so you can have a better idea. But how long you need to study is a difficult question to answer. It depends how hard you study, how motivated you are, how quickly you improve, how quickly you learn. So these are all factors. So you can't say it's going to take 3 months to get a 6.5. No, we have to know what level you come in at. If you've taken the exam or a practice exam, what score did you get? And then you can gauge. But you know, it depends on each person and how willing they are to work hard and study. Okay, so Abdullah here. I'm studying a master's degree in Sydney, but I found Australian people speak very quickly and short and everything when they speak. I stop speaking with them and start speaking with international students. Yeah, that's difficult. You know, I relate to that too, because when I was in Chile, the Spanish was very, very quick. They spoke very quickly and they didn't pronounce certain letters like the S. So again, if you're speaking with only international students, it's okay. You know, as long as you're still practicing English. If you're finding it too difficult to speak with Australians, then it's okay. The thing is, you want to be improving your English. If you don't feel comfortable speaking with native Australian English speakers, then you know, there's no problem with that. But with international students, sometimes you will pick up some you know, incorrect accents, let's say. So you have to be careful of this. But as long as you're practicing, I think it's good. I think that's the important thing, as long as you're practicing your English. Okay, let's see. I think one of the important things is to know more vocabulary. As long as you learn more vocabulary, you will improve your speaking skills. Certainly that's true, Majo. Vocabulary, of course, is one of the building blocks of language. We need words in order to speak. So the more you can improve your vocabulary, the better. And often just trying to learn, you know, 5 new words a day. You know, there are a number of apps, I think Quizlet that you can use, Duolingo, that you can just practice, you know, improving your vocabulary as much as you can. It certainly will help your English. No doubt about it. Okay, so Nazar is coming in from Nova Scotia. I've never been there, but I hear it's nice, and I hope you're having a good experience there. I hope you're able to improve your English with Canadians. Canadians also have a distinct accent. One thing I remember is that often Canadians will say, "What about it?" They'll say, "What about it?" instead of "What about it?" You know, about. So that's a common joke about Canadians, but generally I think it's a good place to learn English. Canadians in general are very nice, very welcoming people. So I hope you're having a good experience there, Nazar. Very good. So I don't know if anyone else has any questions here. Maybe we'll go on here for another 10 or 15 minutes if there are more questions. So I'm not sure where everyone is. If you're, it looks like you're in different countries, but if you are in Saudi Arabia, I do want to welcome anyone that's here down to Asir to check out our academy. Haba is a wonderful place in the summer, so I invite anyone to come visit our academy here. Okay, so it looks like Ahmed has a question here. You have a question not related to learning English. All right, no problem, Ahmed. You can ask your question. We have time here, so go ahead, ask whatever you want to ask, and I'll try to answer it for you. So good. You can see the classroom here. This is my classroom. Classes here are small size. We have anywhere from usually 5 up to max 15 students. So this is another thing I encourage people is to try to learn in smaller class sizes. This will give you more practice, of course, and also in an interactive classroom. So welcome here to Manny. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to Mr. Manny. Let's see here. Next comment here. But I found that there is new words even American students don't know, or what does it mean? Yeah, that's very true. What can I say? If you're studying English every day, you know, there's a app I have. It's a dictionary. Let me see what dictionary it is here. It's the Merriam-Webster dictionary. You can sign up for a word a day, so you get a new word every day. It's a great way to improve, and you'll find, a lot of American students don't know as much vocabulary as perhaps they should. All right, question from Ahmed. I have a scholarship to USA next year. What do you suggest? I assume you mean where do you suggest I go? Which university is good for Muslim or Saudi or safe place to live in? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a great answer to it. You know, I would suggest going to a city where there are already a number of Muslims, preferably a bigger city. Usually bigger cities are more open-minded. You won't have as many problems as, say, a small city or small town. So if you give me, Ahmed, some of the places you're considering or that you've been accepted, where you've been accepted, I can perhaps give you some advice. You know, many universities now do have Muslim student groups that you can find support with a Muslim student group. So this would be my recommendation, is to find ahead of time wherever you're thinking of studying. Do they have a Muslim community? Do they have a mosque nearby where you'll be living? Do they have other Muslim students? So these are all important things to consider when you're going to be studying somewhere, especially for a long period of time, 4 years. All right, Mofri Akesh says, we want perfect grammar, please. Inshallah, you will have perfect grammar. We are going to try to do more grammar lessons on here. So if you have some suggestions for things you would like us to focus on, what areas you're having difficulty with, we just started this 3-part series on the parts of speech, which are important to know about when you're learning the language. So Mofri, if you have some suggestions, please you can write them in the comments, or you can send a message to us. Very good. Let's see. Manny, Chicago have a good number of Muslims. Yes, Chicago does. There are a number of Muslim communities in Chicago. It's a big city. Actually, Mary lived there, so she maybe would know more about that than I would. But certainly you would find a lot of Muslim communities in Chicago. All right, Saleh again asks here, is there any way to know spelling of the words other than memorize it? English spelling is very difficult. Like I said, it's not a phonetic language, which means, we have in English, we have 26 letters, but those 26 letters make 44 different sounds. So to a large degree, you do have to memorize. There are some rules that will help you with spelling, patterns you can notice. In fact, that's a good lesson topic is English spelling. I'm going to make a note of it here. English spelling tips, because unfortunately you do have to memorize, but you'll find as you do learn more English that there are patterns with spelling. But again, it's one of the other difficult parts of learning English. Okay, so Ahmed has opportunities in Maryland, California, Michigan. Okay, I think you mean Minnesota, which is where I'm from. So I can speak to that. There, in Minneapolis and St. Paul, there are Muslim communities, very big Muslim community, largely from Somalia, and also in St. Cloud, which is further north. So Minnesota is a very welcoming state. You know, it's called the Minnesota Nice. So I think in general you would have a positive experience there. Michigan too, I think Dearborn maybe is the city where there's a huge Muslim community. Also California, depending on the city. Maryland, I'm not sure about, but I think those are good options. So now you can tell me the cities, Ahmed, and I might be able to give you further advice. Okay, North South Carolina. Not sure about that either. You know, they did have one of the attacks, I believe, in North or South Carolina on a Muslim. There was a Muslim that attacked somewhere there. So, you know, in the South in general, there is a little more animosity, you might say, towards Muslims than per se the North. So you do have to be careful about that. You want to do some research ahead of time, where the city you're going, what has been the general response to Muslims in that city. Is there any information for you? So I would look at the specific cities. Again, if you're in smaller cities, you might have more difficulty. Let's see what else here. Even there's other words people hear using it every day, which I didn't hear it in the classes. So I use an application called Urban Dictionary. Yeah, so there's a big difference, you know, between formal English and what you might call street English or urban English. You know, of course, it's the same in Arabic. You have Fusha, formal Arabic. You have the dialects like Hijazi. You have Masri, Egyptian Arabic. You have Quranic Arabic. So yeah, there are many different levels of a language, and things you learned in the class, you're right, they might not be used every day. So those type of things you pick up only by living in the country, and do you pick up these, you know, everyday English words. So this is a recommendation for others, perhaps. Urban Dictionary, I'm not familiar with it, but I imagine it's a good app to learn everyday English. Let's see, Abdullah asked, John, how many English words do you think you know, and how many English words do I need to know in order to study higher education in English? Yeah, good question. I can't give you an exact number, but you're right that if you're going to be at the university, you will need to know how to use academic English, which is very different from spoken English to some degree. So you will find this more difficult if you're doing your, you know, 1 word a day or 5 words a day. You can also find apps, I believe, for learning academic English. I'll make a note of that. If there are any apps maybe for improving academic English. But I can't give you an exact number of words. You just have to be continually improving and practicing and reviewing, because otherwise you'll forget. You do have to put in a lot of effort. It does not come easily in terms of learning English at a higher academic level. Let's see. Mofra asks, I mean, like present perfect and past perfect, the perfect tenses. Yeah, this is often more challenging, learning these more advanced tenses. Mary and I do plan to do some videos on English tenses, and certainly the present past perfect can be a little confusing for non-native speakers, perfect tenses. But inshallah, we'll be able to help with that. And again, there are so many resources on YouTube for learning tenses, but we'll try to do a video too. And I try to do it, you know, to some degree in a Saudi context too, because most of our viewers on here are from Saudi Arabia. Anyways, inshallah, we'll be able to do one of those videos soon on tenses. But again, you know, most people in my experience teaching English over the past 10 years, really they want to focus on speaking, communication. This is often the most valuable skill. If you're studying at a university, yes, you'll need academic skills too. But learning conversation is one of the most important. So I always give stress to this, that we should focus on the speaking and not worry so much about these different grammar points It's important, but depends on what you want. If you're just looking for conversation, then that's what you should focus on and not worry so much about the actual grammar points. Let's see what else here. John, in terms of spelling mistakes, I think students should write the word 100 times. It only takes 35 minutes. Okay, yeah, this is a good suggestion, Ahmed. Simply by repetition is a way that we remember things. So if you do it over and over and over and over, it's likely going to stick in your mind. 100 times, that's a lot. But if you have the time and you're motivated, I think that's a good way that you would certainly learn the word, and you would not make the spelling mistake again. And you're right, it doesn't take that much time, probably 3 to 5 minutes. It might certainly be of benefit to you. So that is a good suggestion, definitely. Very good, everyone. I think, let's see here. I have a little bit of time. Just checking. I think we have a little time until Maghrib here. Maybe, we still have about 15 minutes to Maghrib. So I'll just wait a couple minutes here to see if anyone has any final questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap up this first live stream. And looks like we've had 13 people, which, to be honest, is more than I expected. I was worried that I would show up here and I would be speaking to myself. So thank you to everyone that came today and participated in this first live stream. All right, here's another question. So did you know what or where Saudi Arabia when you were young? Yeah, I think, I certainly had heard of Saudi Arabia. I didn't know much about it. Actually, where I'm from in Minnesota, there are a number of Saudis in Rochester. We have the Mayo Clinic there, which is a famous clinic, and so a number of Saudis do travel there for medical issues. So I was familiar with Saudi Arabia. I didn't know a lot about it, and even until I came here, I didn't know a lot about it at all. For example, I didn't imagine there were mountains in Saudi Arabia. Even while I was living in Jeddah, I was unaware of Abha, which is a wonderful city that is not at all what you think of when you think of Saudi Arabia. Most people, of course, just think of endless sand dunes and desert, which is not the case at all. Ahmed asks again, last one, how to improve writing skills. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. Someone asked about academic writing. A good way to improve your writing is actually to focus on your reading. As you read more, you'll learn more about sentence structure. You'll learn more about particular skills in writing, syntax, how a sentence goes together. So starting out by simply reading topics you're interested in, find a topic you're interested in, and you can find lots of material to read about it, and that will help your writing. You can also do different writing prompts. This will help. There's a site called Storybird it's for younger kids generally, but you can use it. Storybird.com. You can actually publish your writings there, poems, books, and so forth, and it kind of motivates you to write. And it's a fun way. You use pictures to write a story. So, for example, you pick a picture from an artist and you try to write about that. So this might be a way Ahmed did. You could practice your writing. Imagine a story and use an artist picture and then write something about that picture. So again, my advice there is to find a topic you're interested in, read about that topic, and then try to do your own writings about that topic, whatever it may be. So that's really the way. Start out with simple paragraphs. Start out using, as we often teach here, a topic sentence. What are you going to write about? Give maybe three points related to that topic, and then write a conclusion. This is the simplest way to start out writing paragraphs. So that's where you have to start. Find a native speaker to to help you correct it, and then see where your mistakes are. In fact, on our channel here, we may do something eventually where we where we accept some, let's say, writing samples, and then we choose a couple of them and, you know, go over what are the mistakes, what needs to be improved. That's actually a good idea that we might do eventually if you want to submit something, you know, an essay or something you're working on, and then we can give you some comments on that writing. Okay, so you're welcome, Ahmed. I'm a medical student. How can I be good in medical term? Yes, you know, at King Khalid, I was teaching with the medical students there, and it's very difficult. Certainly, medical terminology is a whole nother level of English. And how can you do well? You simply just have to study a lot. If you're a medical student, you're already ready. You're already studying insane amounts. So with English, you know, maybe you can find a private tutor, but sometimes you just need to learn what you need to get by and pass your exams. And later in life, when you have more time, you can improve your actual language skills. So I think this is, I can't quite read this name here. Is this Abdullah? I can't read that name, but if you're a medical student, all the best. You're in a difficult program, and I hope you do well. Have you applied for this job? Have you found this job? Okay, Ahmed. Yeah, you can find a lot of ESL jobs on a site called Dave's ESL Cafe, on a site called Serious Teachers. These are all two famous sites, popular sites for ESL teachers. Ahmed, where can I submit an essay? Let's see. We'll wait and see, you know, what options we have for that. Maybe we'll do a special episode video on writing, and then we'll allow people to submit. It'll probably be after Ramadan, but it's a good suggestion, and I'll make another note of it here for doing a writing video and allowing students to submit writing. Okay, Saleh asks, do you recommend reading a book or listening to it? Reading will take a lot longer. Yeah, you know, a good way to improve is podcasts. There are a lot of English podcasts, or find a topic you're interested in and, you know, listen to that. It's a great way while you're driving, while you're relaxing. It maybe doesn't take as much effort as writing or as reading. But reading is also a good skill. Like I said, it will help you with your writing by practicing your reading. So very good, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if we had any women today. I think we had one. So thank you to everyone who participated in this first live stream. I think we'll wrap it up now. It's been almost an hour. I need to drink some water. Feeling a little parched, a little dry. But thanks a lot, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time to enjoy, to participate in our first live stream. Inshallah, next time Mary will be here. I'm just trying to see, you know, if we'll be able to do one more before Ramadan. I don't know. Maybe we'll try one during Ramadan too. Why not? Why not? So I'll let you all know. Again, if you'd like to leave some comments about topics you're interested in, topics that you want us to cover, I'll be happy to try to do that. The next couple of videos, we're going to do 2 more on parts of speech to just go over this basic component of English. Last question here from Abdullah. How to distinguish between male and female English names? Oh, yeah, sometimes that can be difficult. My students often ask me that, is this a male or female? Well, often you just have to ask a native speaker, because some names are difficult to tell, and sometimes an English name is the same for a girl and a boy, male and female. Sometimes they'll use the same name. So you do have to be careful with that. Very good. Thanks to everyone. I think we'll wrap it up now. I'm going to end the stream. I believe this live stream goes to the video section and saves it. So if anyone wants to watch it later, they can. We'll leave it up for a little while. So thanks a lot, everyone. Again, greetings from Mary. She couldn't make it today, but inshallah next time. So all the best, everyone. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're in Saudi Arabia, we have of course, weekend, Friday, Saturday. And we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll try to do another one in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that. So all the best. With that, we'll say our little sign off, which is Masalama Yahamana. Or in English, we can say, see you later, alligator. In a while, crocodile. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Until the next time. Ma salama.